And guys, let's say goodbye to the old year 2023 and let's celebrate, let's welcome the coming of the new year 2024 by singing this classic New Year's Eve song. So without further ado, buckle up and let's get ready for a ride, okay? W czas, когда zажигаются свечи в каждом доме и в каждом окне, это пришел праздничный вечер. Пусть на улице вьюга и ветер, но даже они убиваются мне. И звон часов, в праздничный вечер. Тру-ду-ду-ду-ду. Новый год. Все мечты исполним. Новый год. Тру-ду-ду-ду. Мы на год запомним. Новый год. Nie żali te świeci, nowy gод. W nowogodny wieczór, nowy gод. So remember, what you get is what you see. Ain't nothing more to wear. And if you wanna love a woman like me, or a man, it takes a man to do it. Hi there guys, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel called Blast and the Past. And this is the last day of the year 2023. So I think that is a good opportunity to wrap it up with another video on my channel, and it will be again Blast and the Past Raw Unplugged, so as little editing as possible. And I've decided to come up with something like top 10 most interesting films, at least some of them, which I have seen in the year 2023. They come in no particular order, there will be some honorable mentions, so let's just kick it off, shall we? Without further ado. I've prepared two piles with the films, and they are released on physical media, obviously. And here goes the first one. Like I said, it's in no particular order. So this one is Bugsy, directed by Warren Beatty, if I'm not mistaken, starring Warren Beatty. And it's a very good gangster flick. On top of that, the DVD quality, the picture quality is top notch, so it only adds to the pleasure of watching this film. But it's a pretty longish biopic because it runs over 2 hours, 2:20 I think, I suppose, and it has some additional scenes, but it's definitely worth checking out if you are into this gangster cinema like Goodfellas from 1990, directed by Martin Scorsese. So this is a very good pick. And to the next one.
You think you can steal from me, from Maya Lansky and Charlie Luciano?
And now enters the ring Ali, directed by Michael Mann. It's another biographical picture, a biopic, and of course it's about Muhammad Ali, also known before as Cassius Clay, and that was his slave name, as he called it, as he referred to it himself. And it is another a pretty longish motion picture, but it has better and worse moments. Overall, of course, it shows the silhouette, the person of one of the greatest boxers ever, Muhammad Ali, and it's directed very well, of course, because Michael Mann is the director behind the camera, so what can you expect? Maybe the film does suffer from some pacing moments in terms of the narrative. Maybe actually it would have benefited if it had been a little bit shorter. Nonetheless, it has great fighting sequences and it shows some part of the life of the famous boxer, so definitely it's a good recommendation for the fans of boxing, of this legendary boxer also, and for the fans of Michael Mann and good biopics. Moving on to the next one. The third position on this short list is actually finally not a biographical picture. It's the film called The Real McCoy, starring Kim Basinger and Val Kilmer. I think it was released in the 1980s, and Kim Basinger was slowly rising to fame in the Hollywood industry, so was Val Kilmer, and it's a pretty nice caper flick. It's a crime film about a robbery, about the female protagonist, surprisingly, who gets out of prison finally on probation, and she wants to start living a straight life, but she's forced to come back to this dirty profession, and Val Kilmer is her greatest fan, his character. This is funny, and he's a little bit awkward, a little bit clumsy guy, so he's not a typical macho person. So this is also like playing with the typical generic formula. And it's a good caper flick, a little bit underappreciated. I think it doesn't have any cult following. The average ratings are pretty low as well, around 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, I think it's pretty worth recommending too, especially if you like Russell McCoy. So if I'm not mistaken, he directed Highlander with Christopher Lambert. There can be only one, with Sean Connery too. Unfortunately, the DVD quality, the picture quality is disastrous. I think it was copied straight from a VHS tape. Nonetheless, for a film itself, well, it's a pretty interesting position and a forgotten, maybe not a gem, but something interesting still.
Kim Basinger.
Didn't load the gun.
Val Kilmer.
Told me to buy it and load it.
The Real McCoy.
This one actually it was my first time watching, so as you can see it's a compilation of 4 films, yeah, on one DVD disc. So you could expect the picture quality to be disastrous. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen this one. It's Guncrazy with Drew Barrymore. I think that the film is from 1998, and it's a little bit like a Bonnie and Clyde story. So she falls in love with a wrong guy, with a wrong person. The guy gets out of prison and they start a romantic relationship, which is full of violence also. Very interesting pick. It's nice to see Drew Barrymore in this kind of a role. So not a sweet girl, or actually, well, she is pretty cute, but involved with a bad guy who is bad influence at the end of the day, unfortunately. So it has many convergence points with Bonnie and Clyde, but it's worth seeing, worth checking out as a yet another position which nobody has ever heard of. Even I was pretty surprised with this flick, with this pick. And this edition, on the side note, really, it offers excellent picture quality in terms of this film at least, because I haven't checked out the other ones. Maybe they are horrible, but it reminds me of those XVID or DivX formats, which were released slapped on a CD disc and distributed amongst friends. So it was not exactly legal, let me put it this way. But for the record, I would always rent videos and films from a video rental shop. I never turned to the dark side of the force. But anyhow, the film is worth checking out, and also the picture quality. Quite surprisingly, it is very decent for such a small file size. So please check out Guncrazy if you want something a little bit out of the box and like a retelling of the classic Bonnie and Clyde film. Coming up next.
Love made them a little crazy.
And the next pick of the list, so this is the last film of the trilogy American Pie of the franchise, and this is called American Wedding. And many people presume it to be the worst out of the whole trilogy, but I think that it still holds up pretty well after so many years. And obviously it revolves around the titular ceremony. Jimbo and Michelle are finally getting married. And of course there was a follow-up, so American Reunion, released much later. It was more mature, more nostalgic, but this one I was surprised with a dance sequence. It was full of energy. It was in a gay disco club, and Stifler does his best. He busts a move on the dance floor together with some random guy, and there is a clash of dancing styles, dancing moves, like in Saturday Night Fever a little bit, this kind of a small competition. And this scene, just for this scene alone, I think that American Wedding is worth rewatching, just for this sequence alone. It's so cheerful, optimistic, and Stifler is presented actually as a good guy, a good influence. So there is some goodness and kindness in him, just like with Darth Vader. Now we have another comedy, but with a dramatic twist, a dramatic turn. It's Stranger Than Fiction. By the way, this packaging is extremely nice. Can you see it? It looks so sleek. But coming back to the picture itself, it's a, like I said, a comedy drama starring Will Ferrell, who is the protagonist of his own life. So actually a writer is writing a book about him, and he's not a fictional character because he is alive. And this is like this a little bit meta-narrative, but in a good way, because it has some deeper meaning, some deeper layer. And I was really surprised by how witty the script was, how good, how clever it was also. Not only was it hilarious, but it was also very clever. So this is just an additional value to this film. And Will Ferrell is spot on with his acting. Definitely worth recommending, and there is also Dustin Hoffman as one of the characters. Great cast, great directory, pretty interesting take on the story, something out of the box, and it is definitely stranger than fiction. So definitely worth checking out. Also, have a look at the score on IMDb, so you'll be surprised. This is a pretty atypical repertoire for Will Ferrell, a more dramatic turn, but he also delivers in this performance as well. Moving on to the next one.
I'm in her new book, and she's going to kill me.
Right now we have a tad of a disappointment, a letdown, because it's Volunteers, starring Tom Hanks and John Candy. Can you imagine this duo in one film? And I can't say that the film doesn't deliver, because it's a pretty decent comedy, but I think that it was lacking something. With those kind of actors, those kind of names, so there should be a lot of chemistry. Actually, they don't share too many scenes together, so it's unlike Planes, Trains and Automobiles, in which the duo Steve Martin, John Candy, wow, that was spectacular. They worked like a charm. In this case, unfortunately, I think that the script was a little bit undercooked, but on a side note, there is a funny anecdote that it features something like a product placement, because in one of the scenes they refer to a bottle of Coke that one of the characters, actually Tom Hanks's character's love interest, she would give anything for a bottle or a can of Coke, and she gets it. But the authors of the script, they claim that it had not been intentional. Promoting, endorsing the company. Anyhow, having a look at this cast, you could expect much more, and the film, alas, is only mediocre average. But for the atmosphere of the 1980s, I think that it's still worth picking up, isn't it? Moving on.
Volunteers.
The next one on my list is also a first time watching, but I was drawn to it, attracted to it because of the cast. It features Dean Cain, known from the TV series Superman, and also Timothy Olyphant, for example from Die Hard and one of the Hitman films. So pretty recognizable names, but at that time at least Timothy Olyphant was not a very well-known actor. But the flick itself, it is entitled The Broken Hearts Club, a romantic comedy, and this is exactly what it is about. Therefore, since the title of this film is The Broken Hearts Club, a romantic comedy, well, basically, what you get is what you see. Like Tina Turner used to sing, what you get is what you see, ain't nothing more to it. And if you wanna love a woman like me, it takes a man to do it. And what you get is what you see, ain't nothing more to it. And if you wanna love a woman like me, it takes a man to do it. And this is basically the case with this film. The Broken Hearts Club, a romantic comedy. What you get is what you see. And as even it says in here, the shortest distance between friends isn't always a straight line, if you get the joke, if you get the pun. So remember, what you get is what you see, ain't nothing more to it. And if you wanna love a woman like me, or a man, it takes a man to do it. But it was a groundbreaking film because it presents this LGBT community. So actually it's about a bunch of guys who are homosexuals. So they have their own circle of friendship, they are together, they try to overcome all the obstacles in life. And of course, their relationships are very rocky and very bumpy. But for a straight person, let's say, it's a very interesting take on how the other half lives. So regardless of your orientation, I think that you can still enjoy this film as a comedy, as a drama. It is very real, very genuine, and actually it stands as a benchmark for films representing the homosexual community. So like I said, that was a groundbreaking film back then, and even right now it stands the test of time very well. It is very interesting to see a different point of view if you are a heterosexual person. Definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it moves beyond the boundaries of your orientation. It's just a good flick. Well written with touching moments, very emotional, well acted. The plot is also interesting. And it shows the power of friendship, that sometimes it could be even more important than family blood ties. If you have a chance, please pick it up and check it out. And also, on a side note, again, the DVD quality, the picture quality is top notch. A very good pick, that's for sure. Moving on.
I just wish it was, you know? That easy to let someone in? To be beautiful.
And now we have something completely different. We have a thriller, and it is a mystery thriller called Shattered. I think it was released at the beginning of 1991, and it was directed by Wolfgang Petersen, who later directed also Troy, and his first feature film, a big scale one, was Das Boot, the ship, I think, and it was a groundbreaking film at that time. Anyhow, coming back to Shattered, it stars Tom Berenger, Bob Hoskins, and Greta Scacchi. And Tom Berenger, he's a very interesting actor because he's had many hits and misses in his career. So of course a great performance in Platoon, then something bad, then we have Shattered, which flew under the radar unfortunately, and something else, so it was just this moving up and down, like constantly ebbs and flows for some reason. But he managed to stay relevant for many years. Right now I think that he's faded away a little bit, just like before it happened with Rutger Hauer, but the flick itself, really, you will be taken by surprise with the conclusion of it, with the plot twist, because it's a mystery thriller and really all the pieces work perfectly together. So it wasn't my first time watching, I had seen it before, and to me the plot twist wasn't surprising anymore, but I enjoyed it very much to see whether all the pieces of this puzzle, of this riddle, fall together, and they do. It makes sense, of course it's stretched to the limits a little bit, but it's still kept within the boundaries of reality, and the climate, the atmosphere of this motion picture is so dense. So that's a shame that it flew completely under the radar. It underperformed at the box office for some reasons. Maybe it even got a limited theatrical release. And if you have a chance to pick it up, please do. Just tick it off your list. And if it's not for the characters, the narrative, the plot, it would be for the plot twist alone, that's for sure. No spoilers, but oh, trust me, you will not believe your eyes, you will not believe your ears. And again, on a side note, this is a very nice DVD release, as you can see, very sleek, worth having in your collection, and the picture quality does deliver, and it's only a mere DVD release. So another great one. Moving on. Now to some honorable mentions. I have this one. It's a sleeve release, a paper one, of Good Advice from 2001, starring Charlie Sheen and his future wife Denise Richards, and also Angie Harmon. It's a great underrated romantic comedy. Actually, Charlie Sheen plays a stockbroker, like he did in Wall Street in the 1980s with Michael Douglas. So he comes back to this kind of a character, but it's only for a short period of time. But really, it's a smart, clever romantic comedy. It's not stupid. Maybe it has some silly moments, but which romantic comedy doesn't have them, is not deprived of them. But overall, really, I was so surprised, and it has this great atmosphere of the 1990s. Mind you, it was released in 2001, but still, there are some traces of the 1990s, the culture, the atmosphere, the climate left in it. Overall, I don't want to get into details, but for a romantic comedy, that was a surprise sleeper, a surprising hit. And I've seen it many times, and I could also recommend you this particular release, because the picture quality is very nice. It has this filmy grain, like you were watching it at the cinema, so it even adds to that peculiar, yet very captivating atmosphere of the 1990s. Although, again, like I've said, the film is from 2001. Charlie Sheen as a romantic lead, interesting. Great to see, great to watch.
Charlie Sheen in Good Advice.
And another honorable mention, so it's Silver Streak from the 1970s. I think it's the first cooperation between Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, but they don't share too many scenes together. I remember that I saw it half a year ago, and maybe they are featured in a 2-hour-long film after the first hour. So that was a little bit disappointing, but that was only the beginning, but the chemistry was there between them, and it's a little bit like a hilarious action comedy flick. A man finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, on a running train, so it's always nice to have this vibe, this atmosphere of a train, because very often when you have a thriller which takes place in a contained space, it adds to the emotions. It makes it even more gripping, and this is the case in here. and there is also a very nice action sequence at the end of it. The Blu-ray quality is so-so. The picture maybe is a relic of the past because it's from the 1970s, but even for the duo alone, on its own, is worth checking out. But to be honest, I prefer them in See No Evil, Hear No Evil, in which Richard Pryor's character is blind and Gene Wilder's character is deaf. He can't hear anything, and they need to cooperate together to solve a crime mystery. So definitely, if you don't check this one out, please check the other one out. See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Silver Streak.
And last but not least, so we have Questions and Answers, directed by Sidney Lumet and starring Nick Nolte in one of the roles. A very dark, gritty thriller about the corruption in the police force. It was released in the 1990s. Maybe it's not one of the best Sidney Lumet's works, his masterpiece, the definitive masterpiece, but really, before that, before I saw it, I had been looking forward to seeing it, and I got my hands on a copy of it finally, and I'm glad that I saw it. Sidney Lumet liked making long films, and this one runs over 2 hours as well. It's not the best pick out of his whole repertoire, his whole filmography, but the cast is great, the climate, the brutality, the violence, police brutality is also there, and the corrupted world of police officers. On the other hand, some of the characters have an additional layer, because even Nick Nolte's character, he says that maybe he's a dirty cop, but he just uses the same tricks as the criminals. If he wants to be able to catch them, if he wants to be on top of the things, he needs to also use some dirty tricks. Maybe it's just an excuse, maybe not, but definitely he's not a one-sided character. And it's highly recommended for the fans of thrillers, of police dramas, and also for the followers of Sidney Lumet and his glorious, magnificent career as a director.
You can always find somebody to set you up, right?
Not if you're clean.
And this film is an honorable Christmas mention because actually I don't have it in my collection, alas, and it's Scrooged. It's a retelling of A Christmas Carol written by Charles Dickens. It's about a CEO of a popular TV channel, and he wants to create the best retelling of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens shown on the air on TV. And he's this typical businessman. He's focused only on making a profit, turning a profit, making money. He doesn't care about people. But then, of course, he undergoes a change, just like it was the case with A Christmas Carol and Ebenezer Scrooge. And just in a nutshell, it is one of the Christmas classics, but unfortunately, for some reason, it has been a little bit forgotten. It's not like Home Alone, especially the first part. In some countries, like in Poland, it's a must-see at Christmas. In this case, not so many people have heard of Scrooged, and that's a shame, because Bill Murray is in his element, although I think that he hadn't wanted to star in this film for some reasons. But again, he delivered, and he delivers in this performance, and the film is so smart, so clever, so touching and moving, so I think that many people can relate to it. That actually it should be the family, the friends, the partners that come first. And the career, all of that, of course, money is important, but it's not everything in life, is it? You have more important things, and you should care about people who are in your family, who are your friends, who are just close to you, who stand by you, and you should always remember about them and value their friendship, value life. Like even the protagonist says later in the narrative, I want to live, I want to live. I want to have a second chance, another chance. I know what I've screwed up. I know where I've erred, what I've done wrong, and I want to have a chance at the redemption. I want to live. And this is one of the most important messages, that you may still change, that usually there is a second chance in life. Just take it, just grab it, just fight for it, just stick to it. And really, even the ending of it, it's so emotional, so moving, that I think that it could melt even the hearts of the toughest guys. And it's not a shame to shed a tear or two, especially if you have such an emotional conclusion. Definitely, next Christmas, please remember about Scrooge from the 1980s, directed by Richard Donner. It's not only about Home Alone and Christmas Vacation, try something a little bit out of the box. And come on, it's Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. You can't go wrong with that, can you? And that would wrap it up for today, for today's video, and for this year 2023.
Bill Murray. Karen Allen.
It sounded like you'd seen it.
Get Scrooged.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank all of you guys for having watched my video, for having followed my channel, for giving me the thumbs up, liking my videos, writing the comments, and I hope that this year 2023 has been successful for you, has been prosperous, and I wish you all the best in the upcoming year 2024. May it be better than 2023 and worse than 2025. So thanks to that, we will always be on the safe side. And I wish all of you to be successful in many different spheres of life, in your private life, in your business life, in your relationships, to achieve all the goals that you have set, all the objectives, to feel satisfied with life, to be full of joy and happiness. And even if the year 2024 brings about some surprises, I hope they will be only positive ones. And if there are some obstacles, I hope that they won't be unsurmountable. I hope that you will all be able to overcome them swiftly. Thank you once again. I wish you all the best in the new year 2024.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
And also do remember to stay in shape in the upcoming year 2024, just like Ali did in his life. Yes, and how it was shown in the film Ali, in which Will Smith portrayed the titular boxer. So remember, take care not only of your brain but also of the body, because it's equally important. And after all, the body is the temple of the soul. And also, like Jean-Claude Van Damme once said in one of his interviews, God gave me the perfect body, and it is my duty to take good care of it. Well, wasn't he right after all? So remember, stay in shape. And do you remember Jean-Claude Van Damme's famous pose, or infamous in some circles? Yeah, that was his gimmick, wasn't it?
Like I train. I'm 53 years old. I stretch, I do weights, I do swimming, I do running.
And this is the last video of this year. So thank you very much and see you next year. Take care. Bye.
And a Happy New Year.